What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Real quick before we get started, we have the winners for the clocks to announce. Congratulations to Levi and congratulations to Frank. They each won a clock and they're both being sent out to date to both of them. So congratulations to those two. And don't forget, we have the 50,000 subscriber giveaway still coming up. Make sure you're subscribed and check out the link in the description, guys. I'll have that down there for you so you can enter for your chance to win a 2DS XL, which will happen as soon as we hit 50,000 subscribers. With that, let's get started today. And let's get started with the biggest story of the day, and that is, of course, the Nintendo Switch and the sales in Japan. Right away, we can say that the Switch has now passed 1 million units in Japan, which is pretty good. That's actually fast. It's been, what, 17 weeks since the Switch hit the market in Japan, and for comparison's sake, it took the PS4 roughly 46 weeks to reach that mark, so the Switch is selling like crazy. But we have some interesting charts here for sales. For some reason, Famitsu's and Media Creates have vastly different numbers. So we're going to take a look at all the numbers that have been reported so far and I guess try to make sense of this. Here are the most recent Media Create sales for systems in Japan. We'll see right away. The PS4 seems to be at the top with 25,680, Nintendo Switch at 22,361, 3DS right behind them at 14,729. Now, it's interesting because there are sales going all over the place right now for consoles. It seems like a lot of them are incorrect. It's very weird right now. I've seen on sites where they've reported that the PS4 has sold 19,000, the Switch has sold 22,000, and then Famitsu shows up to the party with a really weird chart too. So here's Famitsu's chart on these sales. We have the Nintendo Switch at the top at 26,964. The PS4 is pretty much right behind it with a margin error of 26,140, and the 3DS behind that at 12,651. And it's very odd that these charts are so different. I'm not really sure what the deal is there. I've been looking into these different companies, Media Creates, and of course Famitsu, since we started tracking the Switch numbers, and they do seem to differ occasionally. Like this is a massive difference. But with all of these numbers aside, it's obvious that Nintendo had a down week for stock. It's pretty obvious either one you look at. If the Switch had more stock, and I'm talking like 50,000 units, they would all sell. We've seen the lines for Japan where they are pulling tickets just for a chance to buy one. You win a lottery essentially to then go pay $300 to buy one. It's crazy, right? And here's the thing. Nintendo has said, we're sorry, we're going to try to get more out. I have a feeling they've made deals for flash carts at this point, the chips, and more than likely a contract has been drawn up, so they know they have basically the parts to make it, and they need them for Splatoon 2. If they don't have a 40 to 50,000 units like sales number during Splatoon 2 week, it seems like a waste, because that is a game that will sell crazy amounts of systems in Japan. If you think it's popular now, wait till Splatoon 2 comes out. It's arguably something that would push the Switch along more than Mario Odyssey might in Japan. Splatoon's that popular. Either way, the Switch has crossed 1 million units in Japan, which is a big deal for Nintendo and really gaming altogether. It's just Nintendo needs to get their stock situation figured out right now, because they cannot go into Christmas time with this kind of shortage, especially with the Super Nintendo Classic coming out. They're going to still try to maintain the 3DS XL and apparently the 2DS XL. There's a lot of stuff going on with Nintendo when it comes to manufacturing right now, more so than either of the other two companies. They have so many systems that they're trying to put on the market right now, and I'm starting to see that they might be stretching themselves a little thin. We'll know more when the 2DS XL comes out and we see what kind of stock that has, because that could turn into something that's hard to find as well. The Super Nintendo Classic may be the same, although they are saying they will give us way more than we did with the NES Classic, so maybe they've actually been working and manufacturing those over time now. We'll see when that one comes out in September. ARMS, however, did stay at #1 in Japan for sales throughout that same week, with Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood, the new one that came out, the new expansion, at #2. And Final Fantasy XIV is popular in Japan, absolutely. So that's great to see both of those two at the top, 1 and 2. ARMS, while a drop in sales, is still at #1. Possibly it may fall out of the #1 spot next week. We'll see. But right now, everything looks good for Nintendo Japan, minus their frustrating, I'm sure, to a lot of people over there, their stock shortage. Next up, let's talk a little more about the Super Nintendo Classic. I made mention of how they're going to be making the Super Nintendo's Super FX chip work correctly with this new system. And I was pretty sure they were going to stick with the same hardware that was in the Nintendo Classic, because they don't need anything more for the Super Nintendo games. But it looks like maybe they figured the Super FX chip out, because Famitsu sent them a few questions to answer. One of them was concerning that Super FX chip that has been it's been interesting to a lot of people how they're going to make this work. We've had problems with it in the past, and emulators still are not 100% on it. However, this is the answer Nintendo gave Famitsu when asked. It's difficult to bring Super FX chip titles to Virtual Console, hence we have never distributed them via the Virtual Console service up until today. As for the SNES Classic, we have found a way to solve that problem, so we've included those titles inside the lineup. There is no physical Super FX chip built into the SNES Classic. Now this is where things get interesting, because it seems like maybe Nintendo has figured out a way to emulate the Super FX chip correctly, like 100% maybe? Maybe they figured something out. Now, of course, Nintendo, they're good at redesigning their hardware into emulation form. We've seen it with N64 games running fine on the Wii, which is pretty impressive if you really consider what the Wii hardware-wise was. It wasn't a very strong CPU or GPU that was in that Wii, but it was still emulating N64 games, something that some computers still have a hard time with today, at least properly. So I'm going to be very curious when we get these Super Nintendo Classics to see what they've done inside, because you know that thing is getting modded like day 1 or day 2. They're going to start pulling stuff, including the emulator, off of there, and they're going to be examining it line by line in terms of code. So again, we're probably going to get a fully functional Super FX emulator very soon, and Nintendo may be the ones providing it, which is kind of funny to think. Next up, let's talk about Installation 01. If you don't know what that is, it is pretty much a fan project for the Halo community. They want to kind of make a pure Halo game that's based kind of around Halo 1 and 2, where they're going to have it so it's going to be free. We can all play online against each other on servers, on the PC, and it looks really good, like really good, like something you would see like maybe from Microsoft and 343 or Bungie in that case. But here's the thing, a lot of people have been concerned that there is a looming legal battle from 343, Microsoft, and how lawyers always get involved in these fan projects. We see a cease and desist go out, that game comes down, and people get really frustrated. Well, it looks like 343 and Microsoft, they like the project. In fact, they've told them now that there is no legal threat coming their way. Now, the creators of Installation 01 went ahead and posted over on their site kind of a bulletin post kind of to update the community about this problem that a lot of people have been really scared about. And it looks like after getting in contact with 343, they had this to say. We are happy to announce that the outcome of the call was both incredibly informational and very positive. Through these interactions, we have been ensured that Installation 01 is not under imminent legal threat, provided we remain non-commercial in nature and scope and continue to follow Microsoft's game content usage rules to the letter. We are now able to say with certainty that Installation 01 will never be accepting donations. We also will not be selling i01 or Halo-related merchandise. This is to keep a respectful distance between us and Microsoft's intellectual property. It is also important to note that these rules and assurances from 343 are specific to Installation 01 as a project and should not be interpreted to apply elsewhere. Through ongoing communication with 343 Industries, we hope that we as a fan project can continue to be a positive driving force within the Halo community. So, it looks like full speed ahead for Installation 01. I'm very happy that there will be no legal issues or anything going forward, so we should expect this game to come out free of charge, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks so cool. I do hope it plays as well as it looks, but we'll find out whenever they decide to go beta or release some sort of version we can play at home with other people. And if you're one of the several people who needed a mouse for the Super Nintendo but have had a hard time finding it, well, good news. Looks like Hyperkin is going to be answering that call. Now they're releasing the product called the HyperClick, and it's going to work with your Super Nintendo and any of the clone systems out there. If you need a mouse, it's 20 bucks. It's brand new. I don't know how it feels, but it looks very similar to the Super Nintendo original mouse. I'd be very interested to see if it's a ball mouse or if it's a laser kind of mouse. We'll see when it comes out. I'll be very interested to check it out. It really only works in a couple games. I mean, we all know Mario Paint, obviously. There's a few others, including Wolfenstein 3D, but for the most part, people get it from Mario Paint and play it that way. And in the last bit of news, we have Crash N. Sane Trilogy, which is actually out tomorrow, and it looks really good. People were pretty excited for it coming out because you can kind of go back in time, play Crash 1 through 3, but with better visuals and more compatible, obviously, with what we're used to with larger screen TVs. The PS1 games, they don't stretch very well when you get to a certain point with your TV. But here's the interesting thing. People have been pretty much thinking it's a timed exclusive for Sony's PlayStation 4, and it looks like some online stores may be reinforcing that. So check this out. A site called supergamer.hu went ahead and listed Crash the Insane Trilogy for the Xbox One over on their site for pre-order. Now, what does that mean? Well, that could mean that yes, it is coming to the Xbox One later on this year. Maybe the PS4 gets 6 months ahead of time or something, or maybe even gets a full year. Usually you don't put these games up for pre-order a year in advance, usually months in advance. So yeah, I do think Insane Trilogy is going to go to the Xbox at some point, mostly because Crash Bandicoot is not controlled by Sony at this point anyway. So this is something that would make sense for them to do. They spent a lot of time basically creating and developing it. Why not get as much money as possible, release it on both systems, and then who knows, maybe it eventually goes to the PC, maybe they look at the Switch. Who knows at this point, but it's very cool that at least it's coming out, and we'll have to check to see when it comes out on any other systems, and if it actually is a timed exclusive. It's a little odd for a company like this to just be putting it up there. However, you do get at least some sort of notice months in advance when certain games like these are coming out. And that's it for Newswave today. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me think about anything we talked about today, whether it is the Nintendo Switch finally passing 1 million units over in Japan very quickly in about 17 weeks. That's pretty good. And also, are you excited for Crash the Insane Trilogy out tomorrow? I am. I'll check it out. I'll probably get on the PlayStation 4 either way. It's always good for these games to come to as many systems as possible, so I do hope it does go to the Xbox One, PC, and Switch. Put it on all of them if you can. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.